All right, yeah, let's push it. Let's
Okay.
push it. Push it real good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Brad couldn't join us. He had to
That's okay.
take the day off for
We
family
are
stuff. So.
pushing live.
Live on the
I-
105.
Wow.
I swear I did not do this on purpose.
What?
Where I'm hitting it between hitting live on an 8, landing on an 8 or a 9.
Oh, yeah,
it's
it's a trend.
officially 10:39 right now,
Well,
and that was not on purpose. Just FYI.
The problem is
Just
I
FYI.
can't schedule a stream for like it's only
Increments
15-minute increments, I think. So we're screwed if we're always going to try to hit it on 8. Yeah. Maybe that's just the new time. We'll go live at 10:38. I mean, we are usually a little late. People know that.
I'm impressed. You're like we're in the presence of somebody that is YouTube Premium over here.
Oh yeah, I pay for that premium. Come on, what are you talking about? Like this?
Adam loves
It's like
the
the
premium.
guac
Just
is
rolling
at
heavy.
Chipotle. Yeah,
I had
I'm
no
just like-
idea.
they're like, the guac's extra, and
And
I'm
sour
like,
cream.
Look, I when they say the guac's extra, the only right answer there is double guac, please.
yeah. Oh, how much again? Oh yeah, give me 2. Yep, thanks.
Wait, you've never had that
Guys,
before?
living
Let's do
so
3.
large.
Let's do 3. Yeah. They're like, we don't got enough
so
guac for you,
large.
sir.
I
Oh, good.
want an extra big
Yeah.
tortilla so that you have to pack more guac in there.
You know that whole tray that you can just pull out? Just hand that over.
Just if you could make
Oh, but clip that out. Anyway, hello, we're live on the internet. It looks like we're live. I'm gonna say we're live, and
Getting some buffering here.
yeah. Oh no.
Just a bit.
Oh, anybody else buffering? Hello. Yeah, Ziv, friend of the show, Ziv pays for premium as well. Like, so I watch so much YouTube. Like, if I didn't pay for premium, it would just drive me bananas.
So my daughter is the big YouTube user in our house. I watch a lot of YouTube, and it does make me a little crazy. But I also would feel guilty paying for it for me. But I'm also too cheap to pay for the family thing because it's like $20 a month. So,
oh yeah, we are buffering. Seeing some weird chop. What's the test manager? Are we getting overloaded on something?
Dropping frames at 20% right now.
Well, that's too many frames. If you could do this with a Scottish accent, Willis, that would help me a lot.
We need more power.
It's pretty good.
52% utilization at only 2.5 dedicated GPU memory. That's low.
Not
using any.
you know what?
Using much.
No, you know what
Are
it
you not an
is.
NBA?
Is it?
No, actually, now that I think about it, we had some internet problems in the building over the
no.
weekend. They took down the internet, so I wonder if we're hitting is
Our
the
bit rate's at 25,000 still, right?
yeah, because we're at 1440p, right? What's the output on Task Manager? We're doing live troubleshooting on the air.
People love
the
this
fun part. Yeah, this is what you come to the full nerd for. Is
It's just bringing the spirit of our PC live builds to the full nerd.
yeah, right.
Look, you joke, but one of the most popular tech pods we've done recently was like troubleshooting theory, where you're like, isolate the things that could be jacking you up and then work down through them. I'm on the guest Wi-Fi, so I'm capped at 5 megabits per second.
Oh yeah,
Our network is dropping to 4,000 frames right now at 25%.
Cool.
Keep going up.
Oh,
keep
God.
going up. Is that our internet?
It could be there. I mean, my stats are fine over here for what we're trying to push, but we might need to reconnect. Let's just bump it down to 1080 and 8,000.
Okay.
So we're gonna stop the stream momentarily. Stick with us.
Will people have to reload?
No.
YouTube's-
Okay, coming back. All right.
Yeah.
How's
all right.
this?
Well,
How's this?
hopefully it's better.
And we're back.
And I see us now. Let's see if
I just took a drink.
Dropped it back down to 1080. We're not crispy.
yeah.
Well,
We're not sharp. We're not sharp enough anymore.
Might as well
Yeah.
be over on Twitch at this resolution. This is embarrassing.
Lower quality but flowing. I know, right? Ugh,
Ugh.
Twitch. Ugh. We used to go to Twitch. It's been,
I like Twitch. I'm a fan generally of their
You
work.
would.
I know.
Ugh. Do you know Gordon's take on Twitch?
I'm sure it's controversial.
I don't think I know this one.
He
It's
just
less
thinks.
controversial. As
Yeah.
you think. It's just more funny.
Yeah, he just
Okay.
thinks everybody on Twitch wears a beanie. That's just it. He sees
they're
somebody
nerds?
streaming and wearing beanies, and he's like, they're Twitch people.
That's fair. Yeah, it's like if one day somebody crosses the street at an intersection, it's the first time he's ever seen somebody at an intersection there. Then that person is the person that only crosses that intersection.
yeah. So
Did you ever hear him talk about casual carpools? Do you even know what casual carpools are?
it sounds familiar. I don't think he's talking
Yeah,
about it.
I do.
The casual carpool. Yeah, this might have been what the first rant was at the Maximum PC podcast. But the casual carpool was a way to avoid, get the HOV lane if you only had one or two people in the car.
Oh yeah.
And so you just pick up a hitchhiker on the East Bay side of the bridge, and then you dump them off on the west side of the bridge.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
when he described this to me, I was like, Gordon, you're insane. He's like, well, I made him sit in the front seat, so he was sitting in the back with the kids.
Wait. So he was willing to do this, but he makes fun of undervolting because he's like, oh yeah, it's like hypermiling.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, that's the same thing.
One's a time saver. One is a fuel saver. Yeah.
Still.
Well, I mean, you could argue that hypermiling is.
But also undervolting is not hypermiling.
I'm just saying. Well, I could see why he would draw that parallel because it requires a lot of fiddly work to just tune it just right, and you're basically not operating your machinery at its maximum performance.
No, you are. No. That's
Oh, no.
see, that's not what undervolting
no,
is.
hypermiling is not, but you're not running the engine at its maximum performance.
I don't know. I don't know
are
cars, so I don't know his analogy.
You are purposely targeting like the sweet spot of just enough over the speed limit or even under the speed limit, depending, so that you get maximum fuel mileage out of it. And that's not the same as being able to, press your gas pedal and go to 120 miles per hour in like less than 60 seconds or whatever. Sorry, I'm not a car person. That is definitely, it just fits Gordon's branding just so dead on, where he's like, I'm going to save this money, but call Elena cheap.
But I mean, wait, is he pro or anti hypermiling though?
No, he makes fun of it when I talk about undervolting.
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
no, undervolting is being able to use like the goal that I like for undervolting is to be able to get the same output at less power and less heat.
Yeah,
right?
I'm looking for not heating up my office.
So
basically.
no, but he's like, oh well, why would you run your CPU or your GPU at less utilization? I'm like, no, that's the idea is to get the same amount of performance but use less power and energy.
Look, he's a boomer. He lives in a house with air conditioning. Yeah. We have a different sets of requirements.
Dang.
But the thing,
throw him under the bus.
The thing, I know,
throw him under that hypermile bus.
Gordon, you know I love you. The thing about hypermiling that annoys me is people go so slow in they obstruct traffic. Your undervolting doesn't do anything to other people. It's just hurting yourself. Right? So there's no harm, no foul.
We're not hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Unless it's not stable.
I mean,
anyway, we got to get this show rolling. We already started late. And we already had some technical difficulty, but it sounds like everything's good.
Everything's looking good.
It looks smooth on my end.
You sound great to me.
Hello, Willis, are you okay to do the ad read? I
forgot to pull that up. One second.
You want me to message it to you?
Yeah, send it to me.
Ad read, quick little ad read over to Willis, and look at that. We're prepped. We got a 4-day work week, and all it does is just mess us up.
I still feel like today's Monday.
Yeah. I like, in some ways I like Mondays, but yeah, when you go straight to a Tuesday, it's just like, wait, it's weird.
How do you feel about Garfield?
I liked it,
Okay.
I liked Snoopy better than Garfield growing up, but
wow,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. No, I was definitely a Snoopy guy.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I've said this before. Garfield's a horrible, horrible creature. He's so mean to Odie.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
He's a cat, though.
Yeah, Garfield's a cat. Odie's a dog.
That's what cats do.
It's the hierarchy. It's the way of life.
Cats are horrible to everything beneath them, which is literally everything.
And I even know that the machine doing the streaming is not undervolted. We don't need to. We're not operating at max capacity anyway. So
you used to have a warning label on it that's not there anymore, I think, right?
No. Just that glass thing. We never peeled the glass. All right. Willis, how are we looking?
All right. Good.
Yeah?
I'm just trying to type up the rest of the stuff.
So we're talking about some good stuff today. Benchmarking, anti-lag plus, and power supply fun.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So,
Everyone ready?
yes, let's do it.
Let's do this. Okay.
Okay to go.
All right. And camera's gonna stay on Adam here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, ready and okay. This episode of The Full Nerd is sponsored by Falcon Northwest. If you're looking for a kick-ass, reliable work or gaming PC, head over to falconnorthwest.com and configure the rig of your dreams.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, we talk juicing benchmarks, anti-lag plus returning, and power supply changes. We're going to roll with it. And welcome to episode 291 of The Full Nerd, PC World's premier PC hardware podcast. I am your fill-in host, Adam Patrick Murray. On the line today, we have Elena E. Hello, Elena.
Hello, everybody.
You were eating cereal earlier. Please tell us which cereal. What's your go-to?
Apparently it'll kill you because there's a new chemical they've been studying, and the U.S. now allows it on imported oat and oat products. Yeah. So I should stop eating it, but it's just Trader Joe's like Cheerio equivalent.
Oh,
Do they call them Trader O's?
Yeah, those. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Trader Joe's.
It's a good name.
I'll stop eating them after I finish the box, but I'm like, at this point, wow.
You know what? There's plenty of things in San Francisco that'll kill you other than Trader Joe's.
I honestly was eating this and I was just thinking, man, modern living will kill you.
It's true. Yeah.
On that note, hey,
yeah. Speaking of alive and in person is Will Smith. Hello.
Hi, I'm here in the room with you.
You're
today.
at the table.
I know.
Yeah. It's fun. Glad to have you here. Also manning the verticals and horizontals is Willis Lai.
Hello, everyone. I am trying to keep up with the fashion here. All three of you guys have glasses. I just quickly put on a
there
pair
you go.
myself.
Oh, yeah. And then half beard, half not.
Well, I like that somebody
I
pointed it out in chat that we go from no beard, little beard, big beard.
Big beard. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I will have to get something as easy as Willis's glasses so I can just be like,
Look,
I match.
back in the tested days, Norm had a yarn beard that he would pull out when he needed to do a me impersonation. So I think he got it on Etsy. But I'm not sure.
Yes, a yarn beard. That'd actually be a good idea. Before we get into the topics, because we got some good topics to cover today, I do want to remind people right now you can go over and enter to win this AMD Starfield bundle that includes a Radeon 7 7800X3D in a nice Starfield packaging. The CPU does not look any different. And then the GPU is a Radeon RX 7900 XTX with beautiful Starfield coloring. Yeah, it's just who cares what you think about the game? This is a powerful combo, and it's beautiful. The GPU is just a thing of beauty.
I'm guessing this is an AMD thing, not a Starfield thing, probably.
No, Bethesda did not send this to me. AMD sent it
just
to me.
making sure.
Listen, I played way too many hours of Starfield. Like I got weirdly addicted to it for a while. So I'm not anti Starfield. It's just I know some people are, but it's like, hey, you don't need to like Starfield to get this bundle.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
Yeah.
The video card's pretty.
It looks pretty. There's a link in the description to go over to Gleam.io. And hopefully Willis can put it in the chat as well.
Yep.
We have, and there's extra ways to enter. So, you can put in you get a free entry just by signing up. And then we've got some other ways to get some entries in there, including a daily bonus. A lot of people have been taking advantage of the daily bonus. So get in there. One of them is to go over and review us on the Apple Podcast. I only picked Apple Podcast. You can only link out to one place. Apple Podcasts is where most people listen to us for the audio feed, so that's why I pointed it there. I don't use Apple Podcasts, but
Well, the secret of podcasts is that the only index that matters is Apple, because everybody else just scrapes Apple and uses their API to get their Anyway.
And usually I talk about reviewing the podcast at the end, but I do need to bring this up. Because of this, we were counting this morning. We got like 20 reviews in. I quickly want to go through them because like it literally warmed my heart. I should send this over to you, Elena, so you can look through some of these as well. Because we get reviews here and there, but not like a ton. coming in. So this is a nice fresh wave. We got somebody who said this podcast, IDI, this podcast is so fun to listen to and provides lots of information to stay updated. Awesome. BM Jones said this is a great podcast, keeping me up to date on the latest tech hardware. I look forward to it every week. Thank you. SBB said excellent source of what's going on in the PC enthusiast community. Just all 5-star reviews. I wouldn't hate you if it wasn't 5-star. It's okay. We'll take a 4-star. So many good reviews that it literally did make me like tear up a little bit because we get feedback on the stuff that we're doing, but like to see all the reviews was just like that's cool. Made me feel good. So thank you everybody, and you got an entry for this awesome giveaway. So we will be wrapping this up live on the air in next week's episode. So I think I have it set to end at like 11 or something like that next Tuesday. So get your entries in.
Get the bonuses in.
Get that daily bonus. Right now we are sitting at what is it? We have how many? 5,300 entries are currently in right now.
Wow.
So lots of people have entered. Still plenty of time to get in there, and we've got 5 of these packages. So one of them I had to open to put it on the desk. So I'm sorry, whoever gets this. Maybe I'll leave a little handwritten note apologizing. And then the rest of them are brand spanking new.
And you can't buy these. It says not for resale on the top. So like this is the only way you can get these. As far as I know.
No, there's been a lot of other giveaways. That and then the Avatar bundle, stuff like that. So thank you to AMD for sending these over. I'm excited for it, but I'm also excited to talk about our topics. So. Let's move over. The first topic is talking about benchmarking. Have you ever benchmarked anything, Will?
I have once or twice. I have done a benchmark. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, have you ever lied about a benchmark?
No. The whole point of doing benchmarks is that you tell the truth and then you figure out why the numbers are jacked up, or you rerun them until you get the thing that makes more sense because you've set something up wrong.
Could what you just told me be a lie? That you're not lying? How would I know?
Wait, if everything I say is a lie and nothing is a lie, and I say I'm lying, then am I telling the truth or not? And then my head just exploded.
Yeah,
I think that's the point of benchmarks, though, because other people can run them too.
Right? Yeah, that is something that Gordon has always pointed to. Said like, hey, it's hard because the numbers don't lie. Like as long as you ran the numbers in an appropriate way. The numbers are the numbers, so
you can make mistakes, and your numbers will not be the same as everybody else's numbers.
Or you can test. High. I mean, but also you can test in different ways too. A CPU review, the numbers could be different depending on the motherboard you used, or the GPU, or the storage. So I mean, there's different configurations. So
I had the benefit of doing video card benchmarks in a time when video card benchmarking was a lot simpler. When we had like 3 settings, it was like good. Medium or great, and we didn't have things like ray tracing and 15 different kinds of anti-aliasing and vendor specific super sampling implementations and all this crazy stuff that made things a lot more complicated.
Very complicated. Yeah, that's why in some ways the CPU side is a lot easier to a certain degree because it's not. I mean, a lot of people review CPUs under the guise of like gaming. I don't really care too much for the gaming side of it.
Doesn't matter, right?
I mean, it does. For sure, but at the same time, not enough.
Yeah,
I guess. So that's why I like benchmarking other things. Anyway, one of the most popular. But okay, I should not say that. I don't know if it's popular. It's popular in certain circles. Is the SPEC benchmark? Stands for I don't have it pulled up.
Supreme
Performance Evaluation Corporation.
Yes,
I have it in the article right here.
Yeah, so there's an article by Mike Kreider over on. There's actually a link in the description. You can pop over there. Elena, go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, so SPEC is an acronym, and it stands for Standard Performance Evaluation Corporation.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. And it has a benchmark suite. They run it through a lot of stuff. Dr. Ian Cutress of Tech Potato fame actually likes SPEC a lot. He's used it. Gordon has said I don't, ever since I've been here, I don't remember him running SPEC. He said it was a little more heavy lifting to run, but it's also a little bit more like server kind of focused too, from what I understand.
Is it a synthetic or is it a real world kind of hybrid type thing?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it is supposed to be more real world indicative. Anyway, the story SPEC. has accused. Let's read the headline. Spec has accused, or I'm sorry, Intel accused of inflating CPU benchmark results. Spec says Intel's Xeon processors were using a compiler that artificially inflated the results of its industrial benchmark by as much as 9%.
9%'s a lot in the modern CPU era.
9% is a lot. There's actually a whole, lack of a better term, white paper. I don't know, some sort of like link that you can go to in the article. Other people have talked about this and kind of broken it down. Spec is once again not something I've used, so I'm not as familiar with it. But it does do a lot of compiling kind of things. And there's different compilers that you can use. Spec is saying that Intel was using a specific compiler for a specific test, that they were able to look at the numbers and notice that a bunch of these numbers were, like an average of 9% over the same performance because of the compiler they use, and then therefore they're invalidating 2,600 of those results, which sound like a lot. And for a major benchmark to come, I mean, that's almost the equivalent of like Cinebench coming out and being like, hey, we found 2,600 of these benchmark results and they're invalid because they were tested in a way that we didn't like.
Well, it's interesting because Spec is the benchmark that you have to compile yourself, right?
Yes. So far, that's what I've heard. So, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that takes a lot of heavy lifting, and they're talking specifically about Xeon processors here, and a certain version of the Spec test. I wish I could get more into details. I actually did talk to Dr. Ian Cuttress of Tech Potato fame. He messaged me over on Discord, and I asked him if I could read a quote, which I'm going to bring up here. So he's somebody who, like I said, uses Spec a lot.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to think that this is necessarily like a big thing. So I'm just going to read here from Ian. Quote, "This specific niche optimization happened in a single test in a suite of 16 tests, using tools only a few businesses or researchers actually use. With the regular compiles like GCC, this niche optimization doesn't happen, and those who care about the numbers that much typically only look at the sub-test scores. This over-optimization only happened on one test out of 16. It's happened before on Spec 2006. People simply ignored that sub-test with when it was run with that specific tool during the specific niche optimization," end quote.
So that's I wondered, because since you compile it yourself, it's not like the error is in, like if Gordon or Dr. Cuttress used this benchmark and they use GCC to do the compiling versus whatever compiler Intel used, they're not going to see the cooked results or the inflated results.
Yeah, and once again, it's not all of them that Intel had submitted. It's specifically that test. So the 2,600 does sound like a lot, but once again, this is just one test in a suite of 16 tests, using a specific compiler, and it can depend on the compiler. So I don't know. I think the bigger thing, I've seen a lot of people be like, oh man, look at Intel again, juicing the numbers and lying to us. What else are they lying about? How deep does this rabbit hole go? All that kind of stuff. I even saw one comment, I think Gordon had shared it with me, of somebody saying like, oh yeah, this is why I don't trust Intel. So like, I think the bigger question is, how nefarious is it?
I mean, I think everybody, if somebody comes to you and you're in Intel or NVIDIA or AMD or wherever, and somebody in the benchmarking department is like, hey, we get 9% better results on this when we do it this way versus this way, they're probably going to always recommend that you do it that way. Like one of the things I think people don't know is that when you do hardware reviews, along with review samples come guides, and they're like, hey, and I think these started out as, hey, here's numbers that are sanity check numbers. This is what we get when we run these numbers in our lab, so that when you set up your same test bed with the best CPU or best video card or whatever, and you run the same numbers, you have a point of comparison. So you know that your test bed is set up right, you're running the right drivers, all the 55,000 different variables that can jack up your benchmark runs are correct before you go and spend, in some cases a couple of days per run on these big benchmarks. I think now they're a little, now maybe companies use those a little bit more as, hey, we would recommend that you test on these because these are the numbers that we outperform the competition on. This is one layer further than that, right? Which feels bad. I don't really like, Spec isn't a thing I was super familiar with before this story came up, and I don't know how important it is especially in consumer space. For servers and workstations, probably much more so.
Yeah. And once again, that's I think the bigger question is like, oh, okay, how nefarious is it that they did this? Obviously, they want their parts to be in the best light, but also who are they? Does this trickle down to consumers? And right, that's our job as benchmarkers to get the parts in. We see their numbers, we run it, we provide our numbers, and so I think there's always at least that little bit of a buffer zone to be like, okay, here's the performance you're claiming, here's the performance we're getting, and sometimes that lines up, sometimes it doesn't. So yeah,
and really the only time this is a real problem is when the inflated results don't reflect real world performance, right? So if Intel has a compiler hack that makes the software that this benchmark is ostensibly measuring faster in real software, not just in the benchmark, that's a completely different situation than if, for example, the it's only faster in the benchmark, which was a thing that happened a ton in the early 2000s before we were kind of, all talking to each other and looking at everybody else's benchmark results, and there were only a handful of places doing benchmarks.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Gordon about this as well, and here's his summary. He said basically Spec CPU 2017 is the benchmark. Vendors testing using Spec with that was compiled with a certain compiler version that were ruled out in violation of Rule 1.4 whatever. Thus Spec will toss out those results. So he linked the actual usability thing. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there is in the guidelines 1.4 Spec CPU 2017 result is a claim about maturity of performance methods. So yeah, if you care that much, you can get into the details of it. But yeah, Gordon then followed up saying like, people should know it's not 2,600 plus benchmarks, it's the submissions. It would be like Geekbench tossing out 2,600 results because people were cheating. The actual benchmark impact is very small and confined to a couple of tests. And what happens is that vendors can just rerun using the new compiler and resubmit the data with obviously a 9% performance hit. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I think a lot of people have ran with the details once again and been like, oh man, we can't trust benchmark results. But I don't know. What do you think, Elena?
I feel like I'm channeling Brad here, where I feel like for my brain, it just summarizes the whole situation as it's always good to have watchdogs, in some form in the industry, right? So the work that people do to double check and say like, hey, does this actually do what you say it's doing? And how did you get there? So that's good. And we have that on the consumer side. We have, obviously journalists who do that. We have independent companies that do that. But more importantly, and this is where I feel like I'm summoning Brad here, channeling his spirit through me, which is he's not dead. I just want to clarify.
No, he couldn't join us. He had to take today off. So
we would not be this calm if Brad was not okay. I think that we've always told people who watch, especially when we do like the Mystery Science Theater 3000 type live streams, right? When we see a presentation and we see the numbers and we see what people are saying, we say, take it with a grain of salt. Wait for things to be independently verified. We have so many different resources now that all publish their information in the same time window. And we have a bunch of people who keep following up afterwards too, right? So you go to your favorite channels, including ours, you go to your favorite website, including ours, and you just kind of look at all the numbers and then you make your own opinion based off of that. If you're following the space, if you're a sharp person, you're going to say like, hey, wait a second, this seems a little strange to me. Has anyone talked about it? And of course, there's probably going to be people on Reddit or forums somewhere talking about it as well. So I think it's just a reminder not to accept things at face value. And that's kind of what we've always talked about. And this one's interesting because, as you pointed out at the beginning of the show, Adam, it involves so much more money. Right? Like it's the enterprise side of things. Like people are investing in these companies and, trading stocks based off, projections and things like that. So it has an effect on that side. But for the consumer point of view, I don't think it changes much for us in terms of how we approach things and the advice that we give.
The thing that I wonder is because this is an enterprise piece of software, and like just to be clear, if you want to buy this benchmark, it's like $1,000, right? So it's a lot of money for like if you're Joe Sixpack at home and want to benchmark your computer, you're probably not going to buy spec. But because it costs so much money and because it's used for the industry purposes, they have a vested interest in checking it and testing it and making sure that the results jibe with the real world performance, stuff like that. And I wonder how many other benchmarks that are not backed by this industry group are maybe sneaking by though, right? Like do we is everybody's looking at the benchmarks that places like us and Gamers Nexus and everybody's using to test their hardware. So are we going back and confirming? Not always. I mean, we're usually a little scrappier than your giant industry standard groups.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I think, excuse me, the fact that that spec was able to find these numbers, I mean, like good on them for coming out and saying that, for sure. Like, I don't think this is a problem with spec. I think they're just putting out the information there. I think it's more just the headlines around it of like, Intel caught cheating kind of thing, where it's like, okay, spec did their job. They saw some numbers and they're like, hey, under this compiler, it doesn't make sense with our rule, 1.4 or whatever, and so we're going to invalidate those results. And it's like, okay, awesome. Then it gets resubmitted or who knows. I did reach out to Intel for comment because I noticed on a lot of these stories, Intel was not reached out to for comment. And if there's one thing I have learned from Gordon is to the amount of emails this guy fires off to reach out to comment is very high. So I'm trying to learn that
journalism.
as well. Yeah, journalism, baby. So I do have an official comment from Intel. Quote, "We respect the spec committee decision and are focused on delivering real world workload performance for our customers." End quote. So
there you go.
They're like, okay,
it's a juicy headline though. I mean, that's why we're talking about it. It's
yeah.
So,
yes. And once again, the way you run a benchmark can really change the result. Like in this case, it's using a different compiler. So whether it's nefarious or not, like, okay, they ran a compiler, they can run a different compiler and get different results. I think about the way we configure our systems. I mean, some people on the CPU side, some people limit it to, the Intel spec 253, power limit for a Core i9 review. But the way that I review it and the way that Gordon has reviewed it as to say, hey, actually let the motherboard do unlimited power, because that's how a lot of people are going to get it by default. And those are going to change the numbers as well, so like there's different ways to get different results. Whether, people call us shills all the time, so whatever, like for the way we test certain things, but like it's more information out there. You have to kind of look through the information and be like, okay, is that relevant to me? Right. Is that information I want to trust? Does it cross-reference with, a way somebody else was tested? That's why I think a lot of, I know it's getting in the weeds. A lot of people just want to see a score or review and be like, okay, that's the one I should get. But also, I do think it is really good to know what goes behind these benchmarks and the thinking and why we ran certain things, because some of the testing might apply to you, some of it might not,
Yes.
But it gives at least a better understanding of what was run, why it was run, and how it could impact you.
I do think there is maybe an important, though subtle distinction to make here, which is that there is a difference between a company looking at something and going, I bet I could game that a little bit, so to speak. I'm not saying that's what they did exactly, but this is a very informal summary of it, right? And somebody choosing to just upfront run benchmarks with certain parameters that will give them different results compared to somebody else who has their own slightly different set of parameters, right? So I can see why here people are getting upset, because the looking at something and saying like, can I approach that differently to get, results that look more favorable to me, perhaps, is something that's done more behind the scenes. It's not something that your average person is going to be examining and say like, I saw that, like I picked that up. That's why we are hearing this from a company that's managing this kind of benchmark thing, right? I think to clarify, the point I'm making here is that when you are looking at benchmarks, right, you do want to take what you're saying, Adam, which is like how did the reviewer, bake this pie, so to speak, like the end results that they got, like,
wish I was
because, oh my God, sorry, slight tangent. But when you watch all these like Instagram reels where like they do the science of baking, right? Where it's like same ingredients, but like different order of how you put the ingredients together and you get like a fluffy cake versus like a dense cake. Like that's fascinating. And I think benchmarks are kind of similar, right? Where it's like you have the same cake, but it came out just a little differently, but it's not like they purposely, tried to change it. It's just
benchmarking cakes.
Yeah, I want a cake now.
Yeah. But it's just that, when you take that into account, but you look at the final numbers, right? So like Intel or whatever, AMD, NVIDIA, all these companies, even the phone area like Samsung, they say like, hey, you're going to get this much performance, and somebody runs a benchmark in DaVinci or whatever you're actually doing, and you don't get that 9%, you don't get that 15%, you don't get that 20%. Well, what really matters to you in the end, especially as consumers, is what you actually get.
Yeah.
So that's really what you should be looking for. And we should just still have watchdogs being like, hey, don't do shady marketing stuff, or don't do like weird stuff because, whatever.
Like in the benchmark hall of shame, there's not putting an x-axis on, like not labeling the x-axis on your benchmark bars on the keynote, right? That's a little bit bad, right?
I mean, I feel like the trend lately too is that like, oh, hey, here's the 100%. Look, this is like 200% faster. Okay, well, what are the actual numbers? Oh, I don't know. It's 200% faster.
2 and 4 frames per second.
Yeah. So I'm just like I don't really like that either. I don't know. But also, I just feel like a lot of these companies know. I mean, especially in the consumer space, maybe not so much in the big server space. I mean, we don't test Xeons or Threadrippers officially here anymore, right? So in the consumer space, a lot of the CPUs are going to be reviewed. Like, so the numbers are going to come out. Like you're either going to pull one over on somebody because they didn't look somewhere, or you're going to be found out. So like the incentive, I don't know, like it just doesn't seem to be good.
Look, this is why I tend to give the benefit of the doubt on this stuff. I think, everybody's doing more with less these days. Intel's done layoffs. Like it's entirely possible that somebody was just like, hey, if you flip this flag, it runs 9% faster than if you flip this flag. Okay, well, this is our recommendation then. And like, it could just be an honest mistake. I don't think we should give giant multi-billion-dollar companies the benefit of the doubt generally.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But like, I wouldn't ascribe malicious intent here.
No. Yeah. So
unless there's a systematic, unless we see other benchmarks where there's systematic kind of.
Well, I gotta see. I gotta go straight to the source. I'm gonna phone a friend.
Oh no.
Because I want to feel. Let's see. I'm calling up.
Ring.
Hello.
I feel like we need a little more context on this.
Hello.
Hello, Gordon.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, you're live on 105.5, the full nerd. Just kidding.
Hey, Gordon.
Oh, I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh yeah, thanks for calling in.
Thanks for calling.
We got
hi, Gordon.
We got Will here. Elena's on the line, so you can't hear her, but she says hi. So we're talking about these benchmarks. You're familiar with the story about Intel flubbing all these spec numbers?
Yeah. No, I've been kind of like, again, spec, for people who don't know, it's been around since 1988. It's a well-respected benchmarking organization. It's basically benchmarks created by the vendors who actually create the hardware, right? Intel, I'll tell you the history. Intel's long pushed like, Gordon, stop using your toy benchmarks. You should be using spec, because everybody respects spec. People who make these benchmarks work at AMD, they work at Intel, they work at NVIDIA. In fact, the benchmark in question here was created by IBM, I think. It tells you exactly who created it. So. Oh,
so I didn't know it was a consortium, kind of like a PCI SIG. So all the companies coming together to make a benchmark.
Yeah, again, these are deep industry experts who create the chips themselves, and so they sort of agree to these are parameters you should be testing with. I think you touched on it earlier. I have been lurking.
Oh, in the chat.
I have been lurking.
A wild Gordon in the chat.
So I do want to make sure people understand there's some things that I think is being lost because the problem is it's a very complicated subject. most people are not familiar with spec, how spec operates. I'm not that familiar with it because, again, it's a pain in the butt to deal with. You got to compile it yourself. But people are saying Intel was the one that was cheating. And, again, our jobs in the media, people who don't know, the official job is the media to find somebody to blame for everything. So in looking for who to blame for this, whose fault is this, who did what wrong, what was done wrong, I think people are jumping a little too much conclusion and wanting to blame Intel because, again, so if you want to run spec, you buy it. There are healthy discounts for, like poor students and academics, but it's...
I'll get that student discount. Elena, get on it.
Yeah. So you get it. You get the source code. You have to compile it. There are many different versions of spec to measure all different kinds of, from Java to graphics performance, workstation graphics. Spec, the one we're talking about here particularly is Spec CPU 2017. The year obviously tells you how old it is. But so if I were to run this benchmark, I get the source code, I compile it, and there's actually rules that I'm supposed to follow if I want to submit those benchmarks. So if I
for like an
compile it,
official submission.
Yeah, if I do an official submission, I have to run it the way that they want me to run it.
So when you say that, you mean like they give you compiler flags and all that kind of, like you run a specific compiler and write flags and all that?
There's all kinds of stuff you have to set. So I think one of the problems, people are automatically saying, well, Intel's cheating. That would be like, if I had to run, the way to explain it would be if I had to run Geekbench, and the way they distributed Geekbench was you get the source code and I have to compile it, and I have to compile it the right way. Okay, now I've compiled it, and now I submit the test, and it's a test that Gordon has run on his Gordon line of PCs.
Oh yeah, the high quality, low
PCs.
prices, high quality.
It's the best thing. You can get the high quality, low prices. But so the thing is, if I'm compiling it and I'm submitting it, is that Intel's fault that I didn't follow whatever, flag? So I think people shouldn't jump to the conclusion that it's Intel running the test and submitting it. It's basically vendors who are making the hardware that are compiling and running it themselves, right? However, what they are saying, spec is saying, and we don't know exactly who flagged it, whether this is just simply a bunch of chip nerds sitting at the round table going, oh, hey, what's up with this result? Let's look at this closely, or whether it was like a competitor of Intel saying, hey, this result is 10%, 9% faster. We're going to narc you out. Something's not right here. I don't know what exactly happened there. But I think people need to understand that it's not Intel who ran the test. They did, however, do the compiler builds that spec is saying, you know what? We think what you did in this compiler build is not in the spirit of how we want to run spec, because spec CPU 2017, if you actually look at what it's for, it's made to measure CPU performance. It is made to measure, let me actually read this, so I want to make sure I get it right. It's made to measure processor performance. It's made to measure memory performance, and it's made to measure compiler performance. So C, C++, and Fortran compilers. So the compiler component is sort of part of the testing, and that's why they kind of want to make sure that if you're testing, if I understand it, if you're testing the compiler, we want you to run it this way. And what this sort of, and I'm kind of down with what Ian says. This is a little bit of a tempest in a teapot, because it is a couple of, it's a couple of small suites. It's basically looking at XML to HTML conversion. There's 43 tests itself in all of spec CPU. But what I'm trying to say is, what the hell am I trying to say here? Obviously, I was just kind of sitting here chewing my gum.
I mean, I think the bigger question for me is like, do you feel like, oh, this is Intel up to their old tricks again? You just can't trust them. Does this shake your trust in vendors?
See, I can't say, and again, because I'm wearing my journalism hat, I don't have any proof of that. What I do know is spec is saying, we don't like how you did this in this compiler. We're going to toss out these results because you didn't follow rule 1.4. It's almost like when you see that, if you watch NBA or you watch NFL, it's like listening to the rules committee of the NFL or the NBA. After it's just it seems like it's so like, oh, this is just such a not big deal in a way, because it's just like, okay, so you don't like this, we'll toss out the results, kind of move on. In fact, I think they've already this compiler version has been out since I think 2023, but I think they've already moved on. So it's like what Will said earlier. It's like somebody said, hey, when you build this compiler, maybe somebody threw a flag and they didn't realize this is something that's going to violate something spec is going to do. Because if you're doing the one API compiler, your job isn't to worry about spec, really, is it? I mean, it's really to probably make the best compiler for one API. So again, getting back to what I kind of consider our jobs is we get to blame people. I'm not so sure I can blame Intel necessarily for.
All right, well, then who is to blame, Gordon?
Well, I think it's one of those things where it probably is just like something I'd introduce it into the compiler, and spec doesn't like it, so they're going to say you can't use this compiler version if you want to submit formal spec numbers, and move on. So I don't think it's a big deal. I have no proof of malice. I have no proof that they did it intentionally, because they really want to pick up 9% in XML to HTML conversion performance, and that's the reason why they want to take this PR hit. I don't think I can see that here. So,
but what about the Fortran compiling? That's what I really want to know.
Yeah, no, it's really a surprise, right? Because if you look at it, because I sent you guys the list of the 43 different benchmarks that are here. These are designed again by chip nerds and software nerds that are in the industry.
Oh, the worst.
They look at everything from Perl interpreter performance to AI performance, obviously video compression. They look at Sudoku performance, in Fortran.
Wait, like the puzzle,
like generating.
Yeah, there's a 548.exchange 2_R that looks at spec rate integer performance for Sudoku. Right?
So that means that theoretically I can find out how fast a CPU I need to have all the Sudokus I could do for the rest of my life in like 3 seconds. That's my new benchmark.
Yeah, so basically, if you care about Sudoku performance,
spec is for me.
You could look at that spec 548 exchange 2 and 648 exchange 2 to look at. And there's other things they look at, again, that probably aren't going to apply too much to consumers. Again, this doesn't really apply this does not apply to consumers.
Well,
explosion modeling, physics, molecular dynamics, dynamics, weather forecasting, that kind of stuff.
I think the worry is that, oh, hey, Intel, got away with this, or got caught on this one, but they are flubbing some consumer numbers, and now we need to be on the lookout for those too, or just not believe those numbers either.
Yeah, so that's a conclusion everybody's going to jump to, and this is the problem that we have no proof of that. But the unfortunate thing for Intel, and this, I would honestly say that Microsoft has often found itself in this spot, is they have been slapped. They've had their hands slapped by the government before for benchmark shenanigans. And let's be honest, most of companies who make hardware probably have also pushed the margins on performance benchmarks, because Intel, and being the force that it has and being publicly slapped on the hand before, they are like an ex-con, right? So you have a record. So the next time I get picked up, oh shit, you're an ex-con.
Beep.
I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Clearly, if I read a headline that you were cheating on a server benchmark, I'm going to now suspect that you're cheating on Geekbench and Cinebench and all these others. Again, that's very much jumping to conclusion. I don't think that's fair. I don't think there's any indication that this is that big of a deal. It certainly is worth talking about, because I feel people need to understand this probably doesn't have that much bearing on other things. Because again, when I download Geekbench, I download Cinebench. It's pre-compiled.
Yeah,
right? I don't get to screw around with any compiler flags. Spec is a different tool. So,
Gordon, do they recommend that you compile spec differently for different CPUs? Like, you compile it differently for an AMD CPU than you do for an Intel CPU, or is it the same for everything? Or do you know?
I haven't looked at it, but they include, and this is the reason why I've sort of not been a huge fan of running spec is because if you're configuring it, I suspect, you do have to make sure that you are throwing the right flags for what you're testing on, because they have versions that run on Mac OS. They have versions that run, different. It's not made only for our simple x86 limited world, right? It's made to test a much broader hardware. And also, if you look at, by the way, I just want to mention all the results. One of the results I was looking at earlier that actually has been marked as, one of the ones that violates it. That was submitted. The test sponsor is Cisco Systems, and it was tested by Cisco. So Intel had nothing to do with actually running it. It has that note saying that this violated Rule 1.4 of the NFL and NBA, and we're just leaving this up here because you want to know. It doesn't make you feel any better because you still lost your game, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. 2 minute post game, and this is run on a Intel Xeon Platinum 8460H, which is how many cores is that? Let's see. This is an 80 core two socket 80 core Xeon built by Cisco. So just to give people, because the problem is a lot of the coverage is covered by a lot of consumer tech websites, and they don't understand that this is spec. Really, this is not the same as
it's
broader. Although they have Blender performance now in there as well. So.
So what I'm hearing is it's Intel's fault that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl because they got the extra pass on the.
Oh yeah.
Too soon, Will. Too soon.
Don't
just
remind
feel
us.
like arguing. This is what ESPN is turned about, and just sports shouting shows where we just all shout about what happened and what should have happened and blah blah blah. But I do agree that it's mostly a deficit in T-Bot, because it looks like, I was trying to find out what the current version of One API. It looks like they've already rolled out new versions. So it's interesting. Like the optimization was rolled in maybe at some point early last year, and then they removed the optimization at a certain point. So the newer versions. With the newer compiler of One API, it doesn't even occur. So it does feel like it could be explained by somebody screwed up by. Well, I wouldn't even say it's screwed up, because if you're working on the compiler team, your job isn't to worry about spec performance, is it? I mean, to meet the NBA, NFL rules, it really is. You're working on the compiler, so it could just. As I see, Matt says it could be Taylor Swift's fault.
Yeah. Yeah. She loves compiling. That's why I need to call you up, Gordon. And get the real deep information. But real quick before we go, can you confirm or deny that during your medical leave you've been working on a jump to conclusions, Matt?
I have. I've been working on a whole bunch of new technologies.
Okay. Nice.
Should I bring it up here? One of them.
Sure, yeah.
Hold on, do you want to pitch this in public though?
Matt, but I will. This could be big for you, Will.
Okay.
This is a secret. Let's not tell anybody else about it. We're going to make a lot of money here.
Email it to yourself
So
first.
This applies to AI performance. Now, I know a lot of people, like, they're looking at AI performance like, this is awesome. You can do video now. We can replace Hollywood.
Yeah.
We can replace with AI. We can now replace writers. We can replace accountants, lawyers, all kinds of white-collar jobs. That's just the wonderfulness of AI. Having machines erase jobs across the globe, which that's the beauty of AI. It makes it so wonderful. So I have actually been working on this whole time.
Okay.
Now, it's to bring AI to where we need it to go.
Yeah.
Which is AI in the C-suite.
Oh, I'm 100% down for this.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people I need to make AI so I can basically gut my workforce and get so much more work done.
But what if you got that work done at the top? Like more effective work done at the top, cheaper.
Well,
so I've been training LLMs, video, and C-suite decision makers for AI. So like my AI, I have to train, does the AI, do you want to fly coach on Southwest? Do you want to fly first class, or should we get a private jet?
Oh.
Now, my AI, I've been testing it. Most of the time it wants private jet. So I think I've got it correct.
Oh yeah.
And in fact, the AI decided that after we've eliminated most of the workforce and other jobs at the corporation, we can now afford a private jet. So, and of
that
course,
is
because
smart.
I've trained my AI CEO to make these decisions, like layoffs, yes or no. 85% of the time, the AI says layoffs, yes.
Oh,
so I know it's
wow.
working correctly, and it says private jet. So I think if I can just simply figure out like all kinds of things, if I can make the AI so where it is indistinguishable that it's a CEO or whether it's an AI CEO, I'm on to big money here, right?
I love it. But you need a catchy name though. That's the only thing, Gordon. You need some really good. You need
marketing
name.
help here.
Yeah.
You need a CMO, but the AI version now.
Friend of the show, Liquid R says you call it Bill Jobs. The AI. I don't know what do you got Jobs? Any names? Yeah.
Bill Jobs.
Yeah. I'm working on that.
Okay.
So the thing is, I've in addition to working on AI CEO training, I'm also working on AI marketing.
I think this is where the real money's at, Gordon.
Yeah.
Think of the savings in carbon emissions.
It'll just simply create. It's going to simply create these AI marketing ideas that will be nearly indistinguishable from AI and what a person does. So again, we can then eliminate those as well, and the AI marketing campaigns will just talk to other AIs, and the AI CEOs will talk to the other AI CEOs.
I love it.
We can all meet each other on the unemployment line.
All right, so and you're taking rounds of funding for this right now?
Yeah, I mean, is there any other ways you think I should train like the AI? Because I obviously private jets, layoffs I've got. What are some like other kind of classic?
I want to say something.
Oh,
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
I guess we could beef up who the AI CEO blames.
Oh yeah. We definitely need somebody to blame. Elena has a suggestion. You can't hear her, so she's going to tell me, and then I'm going to tell you.
You're going to do it with an Elena voice?
Yeah. Elena, go ahead.
No,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh boy, I'm about to find out how Adam thinks I talk. I'm curious. Maybe he's going to have to figure out a solution for how the AI C-suite exec AIs, I don't know what you want to call them, are going to justify their salaries while making those layoffs. Like, I'm really curious how he's going to, and maybe the potential like divide by zero scenario where the AI has to justify its existence, even though it actually put a CEO making millions out of a job. Like, is the AI going to take that money? You know what I mean? Like, there's like some things around that I'd like to know more about.
Yeah, Elena has some really, really good things that she needs to know more about, like AI. Making sure its existence is understood. It has to rationalize its own existence while it's laying people off. So, Gordon, you're gonna have to really, train that AI really well in order to get Elena's money. And you know how tight she is with her money.
Yeah, and also I've decided the AI, because once we tie it in with the new Sora OpenAI video, the AI CEO can actually you will have the
a press conference
AI CEO of your small startup when you're basically canning everybody on the video in the Zoom call. That AI CEO will. I originally I advised the AI CEO to be like really kind of nice, but
no, you can't do that.
Realized, after training the AI by having it watch layoffs of companies and where the CEO is blaming the workers and yelling at them, I've decided it probably is more correct to have the AI CEO technology actually get on the Zoom call and yell at you for the problems of the company, and then that would actually be closer to what a realistic AI CEO.
I had no idea that this whole time, you've been training all these large language models from your home. Like it's a lot of work.
Yeah, just to fire us all into the sun eventually.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that when you come back to the
I'll do my
podcast, you're gonna let us all go with AI. Yeah, I knew it.
Skynet AI.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Well, keep working on it, Gordon. Thank you for letting me call you out of the blue, because this was not planned at all.
Completely not planned.
Yeah, not
No, not a
at all.
problem. I was about to get in my car and drive down the street at 23.2 miles per hour.
Oh God,
and then get on
no.
the freeway.
Okay,
Oh,
callback.
hypermiling. Okay, yeah. So
Look,
you have
He's been listening.
working. Okay,
He's
that's
been
my
listening
time.
this whole time.
We know he's been listening and just yelling at his car radio the whole time. So now is an opportunity for him to yell at us live, which is great.
All right. Well, thank you, Gordon. Be sure to do that. Report the results to us, and we'll look for your new AI. Hang in there, Gordon.
Miss you, Gordon.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
Miss you, dude.
Yeah, we'll have you on again soon.
Yeah, see you soon, everybody.
All right, thanks,
Bye.
Gordon. Awesome. Good to hear from Gordon. That was that was not an AI. I have not been training a Gordon AI.
You can't capture
was
that
the
level
real-
of.
Yeah.
You can't capture
Yeah.
that in AI.
No.
They're too busy making extra fingers for our hands.
AI is not smart enough to do a callback like that.
No.
So you'd have to train it real quick. Anyway, yeah. So I don't know how much more there is to say about here.
Seems like a nothing burger. Gordon didn't say nothing burger, but
Yeah.
to me that whole thing sounds like a
No.
nothing burger.
Yeah, well, he had his journalist hat on, so you
Yeah.
know, one burger in one hat, the hat in the other hand.
It's not nothing, but it's not something. Is how I'd summarize it.
So dig
Yeah.
more into it, though. I mean, that was cool that he had dug into it enough to be like, hey, one of the results was from Cisco. It wasn't even Intel running these results the whole time.
Yeah.
It just was Intel parts. So anyway, let's move on to Anti-Lag Plus, because that was another story that went up. I will say after last week flubbing a couple times with Brad, where I was like, oh, hey, here's a story over on Tom's Hardware, and Brad was like, well, we got a story too. I was able to make sure to put in the description, we have a story on this one as well.
I noticed all
yeah.
of them. All of the links that you sent me this week were PCWorld.com links.
Not
So
all,
good job,
not all of them,
Adam.
but most
Adam
of
forgot we have a website.
them. No, I did. We do some great stuff on the website. It's just, when I Google it, sometimes our website is not at the top. Anyway, Mike Kreider
Site:/PCWorld.com.
Yes. Oh, there we go. I should do that. Mike Kreider had an article about AMD's Anti-Lag Plus coming back after an ignoble exit in 2023. Subhead is Franco Azor says the latency busting tool will return soon, hopefully without tripping anti-cheat systems. So the funny thing is about this, I actually first noticed this when I was running
Hack.exe.
no, yeah, exactly. No, I was testing out the 7800 XT and 7700 XT when we got those in for review. Brad wasn't able to do the reviews, so he sent them to me. I did the testing for him, and he did the official reviews using my numbers. But when I had it in my gaming system, I was trying to run Call of Duty, and it kept crashing, and I was like, huh. That's weird. I'm not quite sure it was crashing. So, one of the first things I did was go into the Radeon software and change all the flags to default so that it turns off all the optimizations and stuff. And then it was running. So then one by one, I kind of turned each one back on. And sure enough, it was that Anti-Lag Plus that was making Call of Duty crash. And whatever, at the time, it wasn't pertinent to the benchmarks that I was running. I did tell Brad about it, but we didn't follow up on it or anything. And then to hear that it was actually kind of tripping anti-cheat systems, and actually it didn't happen in my case, but it sounds like some people were actually getting banned because of it.
Like
so,
VAC bans, which are like Steam-wide
yeah,
for everybody that uses Steam's anti-cheat.
Can you tell
It's
me
bad
more
news.
about like what that is for? I mean, obviously it's for cheating, but how does something like Anti-Lag Plus trigger cheating? Because that's obviously not cheating, but somehow it got thought of as cheating.
Well, so the way most anti-cheat stuff works is it looks for software that's being injected into the game. So you replace a DLL with another DLL. So it's like, hey, this DLL isn't the same as the others, or this spot in memory isn't the same as others.
Got it.
And at that point, it's like, oh, clearly you're cheating because you're using Cheat Engine Plus or one of the bazillion of other tools that are used for that. There's a bunch of different ways that anti-cheat stuff makes that difficult to do. Like
Mhm.
easy anti-cheat basically just takes the entire amount of memory that the game wants and then scrambles up the positions for everything so that you can't say, oh, this bit always does this flag on the game. This makes you invulnerable. This does this
okay.
does this. I don't know exactly the mechanism for VAC, but the idea is AMD was injecting a DLL into the games that it supported Anti-Lag Plus with, and
Interesting.
VAC was seeing that, and presumably Call of Duty was as well, was seeing that and saying, hey, this is bad. Now, some anti-cheat, when it thinks you're cheating, just flips a switch and crashes the game silently without leaving like a crash in the Windows error log or stuff like that. It seems like on Counter-Strike 2, it was just saying, hey, this person is a dirty cheater and we're going to yeet them from the game forever. And also because it's VAC and it's Steam wide, it's all other VAC enabled games, which is like mostly Valve stuff.
That's rough. I mean, I guess
Ouch.
a couple of follow-up questions for me. Number one, wouldn't AMD done testing on this? How did this not get seen?
So, I mean, sometimes
beforehand?
you don't. Sometimes it doesn't. Like it's not 100%, right? So usually, I don't know exactly how VAC is implemented in Counter-Strike 2. You can do like. Often you'll have like heuristics that then have it do the look because you don't want to dig into people's systems if you don't have to. There's all sorts of different ways people can implement it, and it's entirely possible that like the VAC bans came late. So maybe they tested this internally, everything was fine, and then Counter-Strike 2 came out. And they're like, hey, we got this, it's working, and then the VAC bans all landed like 2 weeks later.
Weird. Yeah. Well, anyway, I guess it sounds like that. So after this happened, they pulled it out of the driver, and then. Now they're going to be bringing it back, presumably with some changes to make sure it doesn't do that. I don't know exactly what entails the changes, and maybe we can have Frank on. It's been a while since we had Frank on, so I think it'd be nice to have him on. But yeah, they also according to Mike's article, which Mike, hi, is in the chat. Yes, you do exist, and I love you, Mike. He said, Frank declined to say exactly how soon we can expect to see Anti-Lag Plus again. The less complex Anti-Lag without the plus is still available and has been available, but it is less effective. So the other question I have is, Anti-Lag Plus, the Reflex, NVIDIA's version, which is Reflex, what is the...
It's Reflex.
But Reflex, what like the newest one that came out?
The one with 3.5.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, the thing about Reflex is the developer has to implement it themselves. So NVIDIA is not injecting it into the games. You have to support it, and basically it's part of the DLSS plugin for
Boost. Yeah. That's the newest one, but specifically this is for situations where you're using frame generation too. That's kind of why these are come hand in hand, because they're trying to reduce the latency for frame generation, and they're saying, hey, if you turn on Reflex Boost or Anti-Lag Plus, that kind of helps ease some of the latency stuff.
It matters especially on games that are CPU bound, where your GPU is running full bore all the time, and you get the more frame lag. I think that's right. Hold on, I'm thinking about that now. I'm a little worried, but yeah, and yeah. So Reflex Plus, these both are really, really required, I think, for frame generation, because your input latencies creep up quite high if you're generating frames and you don't have input lag reduction on. So to the point that NVIDIA requires Reflex. I think Reflex is required on NVIDIA so they get the motion vectors so that they can do. So you can do the prediction inside the frames. I don't know how it works on the AMD side, actually.
Well, how you do a lot of competitive gaming.
I am a competitive gamer,
so
yes.
do you? Yeah,
the oldest competitive gamer.
But you're not using frame generation in the competitive games. Are you using?
No, because I mostly play Fortnite these days,
okay.
and so Fortnite runs on a 4090. Fortnite runs at the settings that I use at like 350 frames a second. But I do use Reflex because the input latency, especially when you get at those really high frame rates, it matters, because you want each frame and each input to be synced up, basically.
Yeah. So, but it is something that you do care a lot of like having
about a lot, but I care about it. I take the time to turn on Boost.
Okay.
On the Reflex side.
Elena, a bird has told me that you're pretty competitive when it comes to Overwatch 2. Does that?
Oh no, let's not confuse playing competitive modes with being competitive.
Yeah.
Those are very, very distinctive ideas in the English language. Separate and distinct.
Well, in Overwatch, do you know if they have any of these technologies to reduce lag?
I don't pay attention because
okay.
I'm in paper plastic bag tier. So like,
Well, but maybe if you turn it on, you would then just all of a sudden, boost to diamond
no,
tier.
we would just miss our shots even faster. That's all.
It's the thing that when Reflex first came out, I talked to a couple of PUBG pros about this, and the thing that they said was that they learned to account for the input lag by aiming a little bit ahead or a little bit behind when they're looking for really tight headshots. And when they flipped the reflex on, they had to retrain themselves to actually put the cursor on the head rather than account for the input latency in their brains. When they're very good brains that are much better than my brain.
Well, so I mean, but it sounds like it's something that it's worth using.
If like. It's one of those things that I feel like NVIDIA pitched it to us, and I don't know if I buy this, but NVIDIA pitched it to us when they were rolling out the first version of Reflex as a way to make the thing that you think is going to happen more likely to be the thing that actually happens, because it reduces the gap between where your cursor needs to be and where you think it needs to be to land like a headshot on a 5-pixel wide head in Counter-Strike or Valorant or something like that. I don't know that I buy that. They had data to back it up, but it's most publications and like even me as somebody who was playing PUBG a lot at the time, I'm not equipped to I don't have the kind of reflexes to validate or invalidate those claims.
Well, I've heard frames wins games.
That is, I believe, the official motto.
Yeah, is that?
Wait, is that another shirt idea?
No, that's an NVIDIA marketing marketing.
No, I mean like now, we could do a shirt with that. I'm just saying,
and it's just a bunch of window frame, like picture frames.
Yes.
There you go.
Or like like you used to have like the Windows error, like where you just have like. Like just them coming up.
Blue screens inside the picture frames. I like that.
That would be funny. I mean, it's one of those things that I mean, I think I'm kind of more in Elena's camp, and I don't do a ton of competitive, or I play games, but I'm not competitive in any form or fashion. When I play with others, I play with Willis, quite often.
Adam's chill.
And I'm just like, I'll play with somebody like Luis, and he's like, the point of the game is to win. I'm not having any fun unless I'm winning. And I'm like, the point of the game for me is just to have fun. I don't care if we win or lose. I'm just here to have fun.
Funny.
See, this is
Luis is like the most chill guy in the office.
Yeah. And he's probably watching right now, but yeah.
Luis is the one yelling take the shot, Willis.
Yeah. He's just like, oh my God, I can't believe we lost. And I'm like, it's still fun. I had fun.
This is the secret of battle royales, right? Is like you play battle royales, even if you're playing with a squad, there's 24 other teams in that game, right? So like if you win 1 out of 10, you're doing better than the average, right?
Still fun.
Yeah.
Also, I play. So I think another reason why I don't think about it too much, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of groans in the chat, but I almost exclusively play on controller. So
do you turn on motion smoothing too?
Depends on the game. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. So not for movies.
Not
for games. Yeah. That's
killing me.
For audio listeners, Will just like backed away from Adam, put his head in his hands for a moment.
For those who don't know the canon, Jeff from Craft Computing sat on this podcast and said that he turns on motion smoothing.
I wasn't going to narc him.
Yeah, I'm going to narc him because Jeff.
Wait,
that's not
he
okay.
did?
Yeah, he said it publicly. He said he turns on motion
without
smoothing.
Shame?
I feel like
he didn't have too much shame.
He expressed a slight amount of chagrin when we both hit the floor.
Yeah, but he was ready for it. I think he knew. Yeah, but for games, I'm okay with film grain, chromatic aberration, like things like that in a game. Like I like bells and whistles. I like.
But seriously, that was the most nuclear take I've ever heard on a podcast. I think.
Yeah. Oh man. Hopefully, I will see him again soon, and Actually, you know what? We're gonna make a video just on that.
We
I
should-
think.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
motion smoothing.
After this,
That's
he's
gonna
going to
be
ignore your calls.
controversial.
Yeah.
I
I don't
think
know if he's going to Computex. It might be the first time I see him.
we should make a T-shirt with like a smooth, like, you know, you've seen Smooth Yoda. We should make Smooth Jeff, where he's just super
smoothed over.
like plastic Jeff. It's-
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, yeah. Well, hopefully, once again, anti-lag. Look for it in the stores near you if you're a Radeon user. Actually, you know what? Guess what? If you win this awesome Starfield bundle, you too can use Anti-Lag Plus when it comes out.
You could experiment for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So not much to say there. Look out for it. I'm curious the testing and the new implementation. Like I said, hopefully I can maybe I'll reach out to Frank. It's been a while since he's been on, so I think it'd be good to catch up with him. But the last topic is power supply changes. Let's move over here. This kind of encompasses a lot of things. So first off, I guess there has been some rumors about a new redesigned 16-pin version of the 12-volt high power. Upcoming, and it's only gonna, it's mandatory for RTX 550 series, 5000 series, whatever. The rumors right now, we're not going to get into that. I feel like we've talked about the 12-volt high power thing a lot lately.
does that mean I have to get an adapter from my 2 8-pins to my 12-pin to my 16-pin on the next video card I
exactly,
get?
yeah. I don't know. There's information out there, nothing enough that I felt like we need to really dig into. But something that when we were looking over the things to talk about this week, Elena, it was you, or was it Gordon? Who tipped us off? Yeah. So he tipped us off that there's a link in the description for a Lian Li power supply that they just launched that's L-shaped. This specifically, so crap. I
don't know if this is L-shaped. This is it's like got a flange.
It's got a lip.
Yeah.
It's got a lip.
Okay.
It would be a real fat L on one
For
side.
people watching on video, imagine this is a power supply. You've got the
Adam's holding up a box.
Yeah,
it's a
box.
CPU box. just
You
to be
got
clear.
the IEC cabled power switch back here. On this side are the PCIe power plugs. On this side, so one of the problems, especially for dual chamber designs, which have gotten pretty popular, you would say dual chamber is definitely a popular case design, Elena, right?
Sorry, the video started going in the other window, and I was turning things off for a moment. One more time, please.
Dual chamber case designs. You feel like it's pretty popular? You would agree?
It's been for a while, yeah.
So the idea is that when it's in that dual chamber spot, it's kind of hard sometimes to plug in. I mean, crap, even in a normal case, sometimes it's hard to plug in as well.
To plug in cables.
Usually you want to plug it in before you put it in. But so what this Lian Li thing does is it adds a little shelf. Kind of like that. I'm just
so now now Adam has hung his phone off of the side of the box.
Yeah, for the audio
where
listeners.
where the plugs that go into the computer bits inside the computer would go.
Yeah. So it's almost like it shifts some of the plugs down into a spot where if you had this mounted like this, that if it's in a dual chamber design, you could plug it straight into the back. It's almost kind of like the whole backside motherboard connection thing too, where it's an ease of use thing to say, hey, if it's in a spot where you can just physically look at it and just boop 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 plug it straight in. I kind of like it. It obviously adds a little bit of length to the GPU because that little shelf, you got to account for that little shelf overall. So it depends on the size of the case and the size of the power supply. But having that little shelf seems like it's a nice little quality of life thing, right?
I mean, so the thing I don't understand, because I haven't ever built one of these dual chamber cases before.
Oh, really?
Is that flange flush with the barrier between the two sides? Is that the idea, or is it
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then yes,
typically,
that seems like it would be a lot easier to build it. Except it looks like the big, chunkiest cables are still coming out of the back of this thing. So then you're gonna have cables that are working at right angles to each other, and that seems like it would be bad.
So I looked at this, and I'm looking at it now, and I'm one of those people, unfortunately, that I don't visualize well. So I usually work best when I actually can see something in person and kind of actually put it in 3D space. So looking at these flat still images, I'm still thinking it seems like a boon. It seems like it could be useful, but I also wonder if it's only really going to be useful for bigger dual chamber cases like the O11 Dynamic, because if from understanding it correctly, so the plug is now facing outward towards the side of the case. So when you plug it in, that means your plug is sticking straight out towards that side panel. So
Yep.
you're going to need a certain amount of clearance for it, right?
Correct.
And if you're trying to do this in a small form factor case, which also has like dual chamber, kind of like what we call really sandwich style cases, right?
Mhm.
That's not much space sometimes. So if you're trying to do like a high power build in that, because most of these are, this is why I think it's maybe designed for a bigger, like at least a mid ATX size case, because I think these are like high wattage power supplies that they announced. So
Yeah,
like
it's like
8,
1,000,
9,
1,200.
1,300
Yeah.
watt. But people do build powerful small form factor builds. It's just I still think like the 24 power pin connector, that thing's chunky, right? So it's just coming straight out this way.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to see it in person to get the advantage. Like I do think it's easier for like rewiring, right? Like how many times it's non-zero number of times of I've not properly seated a power cable during a live build.
Yeah.
There's video proof of this, so I can't deny it. And this makes it a lot easier to check those cables, right? Because it's not like down there and you're like trying to be like, what's going on?
Yeah, or you add a new device and you need to
exactly.
you have to plug one
Yeah.
in after it's already built. It's just a disaster.
Yeah.
I also love that this has a USB hub. The things that I thought they were hanging out of the side
No.
are actually
It's-
USB power
Yeah,
hub.
it's extra power headers.
Yeah, so for like
yeah.
lights
Oh,
and stuff like
man,
that,
which
that's
is
so good.
That is that's the other thing. Like, holy crap, I didn't know that was a thing. But yeah, like if you can give me more USB headers, like hell yeah.
I had to buy an internal header USB hub
Oh, just to get more
because I needed more.
yeah. So they do have it pictured in a case in their live stream thing.
Mhm.
I don't know the cases enough to say which case this is. Maybe somebody in the chat knows a little bit better, but it does look like a bigger case.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's room. I mean, obviously a lot of it does come down to cable management too. So but I mean, with the idea of having more ease of use, I like this, right? I really do feel like we're kind of in a spot where people are rethinking stuff and kind of like trying new stuff. One of the other power supplies that we had seen, and actually I have got hands on with it. I don't know, Elena, if you've messed with it. Is the Corsair? What is it? Shift.
Nope, I haven't touched that at all.
Yeah, the
Also, I think, just to answer your question real quick, I think that's an O11D, one of the variants of the O11D.
Yeah. So yeah, the Corsair Shift, it kind of, it's a similar idea where you're trying to put the plugs in somewhere that's more accessible. So say once again, this box is a power supply. The IC cable at the back, the power supply button here. Usually the PCI plugs are on this side, but what they did was they shifted. You see how they did that?
Yeah.
They shifted the plugs to this side. So if you're in a normal traditional case, you just pop open the side panel, and you've got the plugs right there, rather than having to kind of figure out a way to look here. But once again,
It's gonna have to be a really wide case though for that to work because those cables don't bend.
Which once again, I mean, they showed it off in a lot of Corsair cases, which do have the depth. But yeah, that is the one downside. And I mean, the same thing for the rear side power connectors on the motherboard. That's the same thing. If you don't have enough clearance on the backside.
So it sounds to me this is not necessarily a design issue with these new power supplies. Like I think these are innovative and in a good way, but it sounds like they're almost incomplete solutions because they sound like they pair well with 90-degree cables, right? Like it sounds like they should be releasing with 90-degree.
Yeah,
like,
where you have like a
angled
tall
cables.
connector that comes up on the back one so they can come straight out.
Yeah, so like say, because if it's facing straight out towards that side panel and you're trying to put in something like a 24 pin cable, like if you could somehow convert that to being a 90-degree angle cable, then you wouldn't have to worry about that clearance as much.
I mean, looking at the photo though, I mean, like, and they have pictures of it plugged in. Like they don't have right angles plugged in, and because of the depth of the power supply already.
No, sorry, for the shift.
Oh, for the shift. Yeah.
For the Corsair shift.
I mean, once again, the shift, and I mean, here's the thing, right? We've talked about it many times. ATX is a specific spec. People just been building ways the same way. A lot of these things, the shift, this Lian Li power supply, which actually I don't remember the name. Do they have a name for it? It doesn't really say. Edge series. There we go. I like that one too. these are just shaking things up, right? Really, trying to be like, hey, what if we didn't do the normal ATX spec?
Yeah.
And yes, it means you have to think more about compatibility. Things for this, probably better in a bigger case. The Corsair Shift definitely better in a bigger case, and you got to think about clearance and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just like the idea that we're seeing experimentation and trying new things.
For sure.
But it does mean you got to think more about compatibility.
Well, and stuff's still fitting in the same basic shape at this point, right? Like they're still taking the same. Hey, this is the size of a power supply. Right. The thing I haven't seen anybody talk about with the Leon Lee power supply is that this actually might be an easier to manufacture design, because my guess is that this is all this board. This is one planar board instead of a board with the right angle coming off of the back of it for the power connectors. Because typically, there's no pictures of this opened. Obviously,
I see what you mean.
But usually, on a power supply, there's a board that's flat along the bottom. There's heat sinks and all the stuff that comes out of it in the fan above that, and then there's a plane that comes up 90 degrees out of that main board for the power supply that has the back plane that all the power connectors go into.
Yep.
And with this, that I don't think is necessary. So it could be an easier to manufacture,
could be more efficient too. I don't know if you're
less
losing
points of failure.
Yeah. So
maybe cheaper to manufacture. So I mean, they might really like these, and they probably charge a premium for them right now. So.
I mean, I think it is. I mean, and they do seem like really high end, high spec kind of power supplies. But
I don't know. I'm into it.
It's fun. The other thought I was thinking of is we like the Fractal Torrent has the power supply in the top. I actually wonder if that would work well in that scenario too.
Plugging in, plugging up.
Yeah, like this. So yeah, I don't know.
I'm into it.
Anyway, fun stuff.
I'm glad people are experimenting. This is good.
Yeah. So, hopefully we can get one in. I would love to try to build in it. We do have the O11 Vision that we've built in, but not with this. So, fun stuff. Leon Lee had some other announcements, but I don't know. The power supply thing looked to be the most interesting, and once again, Gordon was very interested in it because of changes to ATX, and I don't have his actual wording up, but yeah, essentially he was just like, oh man, yeah, I love seeing these changes.
I do wonder how this will pair with the back connect stuff, because they also announced an O11 Vision back connect version.
Oh, dang it. All right, we got the wrong one.
Yeah. Look, I have a Dremel. We can make that a back connect version in 10 minutes.
There's a Dremel behind you somewhere in the boxes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, so... Matthew, a friend of the show, Matthew Lang, happy birthday, says I could see it as good for somebody with a test bench too. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I like that. Speaking of people with test benches, we're gonna grab some questions and give them answers right now. Let's to finish up the show. If you have questions right now and you're watching live, get them in at PC World. That's kind of the easiest way for us to see it. If you're watching or listening to this later, which I know a lot of you do, the best way to get a question in for the next episode is to go to our Discord. There's a link in the description, and we have a question channel over there that you can get your questions into and hopefully read on this show. I'm going to start with one that just came in today, because I think it's kind of an interesting one to get it started while others are asking. Let's see. Friend of the show, Sort of Fast, said, how many PCs do you own? What are the specs and what are they used for? I'm not going to read that last sentence because it angers me.
No. You have to say it. It's part of the question. It is valid.
Well, it's not a question. It's just a comment. And no, Adam, your handhelds don't count. That's you called me out specifically. Also, as a joke, I did follow up and asked to max count. So.
I also asked if laptops counted, and he Sort of fast said no. We're just talking about desktops only.
Oh, laptops don't count.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because I feel anyway.
What about a server?
Our show is not about.
Yeah. I mean, a headless server.
NAS.
Yeah, NAS. Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard. I think we're kind of in a different situation in some ways. So I kind of want to hear, Will, you, because
I pay for all my hardware for the most part.
Yeah, you don't do any testing. You don't have
So main gaming PC.
What are the specs in that?
That's the 13900K with the 4090.
Okay.
The old gaming PC, which is now the Stream PC,
Okay.
that's a 9900K with a 3080 or 3080 Ti, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There's the old streaming PC that's aging under my desk to go to electronics recycling. I pulled the drives out of it.
Okay.
That's like an AMD Ryzen 3600, I think.
Oh, okay.
There's my daughter's computer, which is a Ryzen 5600 with a 3080 or 30. It's either the 3080 or the 3080 Ti. I can't remember which one. There's a B-Link mini PC in the garage that's like a headless server that runs a bunch of Docker containers for Plex and a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
There's a Synology NAS, which is a Celeron, I can't remember, maybe a 33, I don't know. It's like a 5-bay, it was a 5-bay $600 Synology. I just looked at the price and made sure it was Intel so I could get quick sync.
Okay.
And then there's a bunch of old Maximum PC pieces. There's like I have a Mac G4 Tower, the pre-cheese grater one with the slide down door out there.
Oh, nice.
There's an iMac that's the aluminum unibody one out there.
Just storing them.
They're just aging.
Yeah.
The look, I'm gonna go tell you a secret. The Mac with the pull-out door, it's like an ATX case, but it's reversed. And someday when I have a lot more free time, I'm gonna put a real computer in there. It's a substantial engineering challenge because everything's like chirally
upside
backwards.
down.
Yeah. And then there's like an old Dream Machine out there that I keep threatening to bring in and always forget when it's the day to come in. There's I have an old server that's like 10 years old that has about 18 platter hard drives that I don't think would even turn on now. Probably, I think the RAID card in that one died. I don't know, but in reality, it's like
a lot of
7
hardware.
machines that are running on the reg.
Okay.
6 machines that are running on the reg.
All right, and what about handhelds? Because guess what? They do count. They're PCs too.
I just have 2 Steam Decks.
Steam Decks.
And then a Switch. 3 Switches, because everybody in the family got a Switch.
That's a console. I'm gonna hold it there. That's a console.
Okay. So I guess you don't want to hear about the 3DSs and the.
I mean, I do, but not for this question.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's
laptops.
actually a lot more than I expected.
It's gross. It's bad.
Yeah.
My power bill's bad.
Yeah. Elena, I feel like you're probably the next one to have a lot of computers.
I'm still taking notes.
Oh, no. Okay. So come back to you.
Oh. She has a scroll worth.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Well, on the.
How about you, Adam?
Yeah. So for me, I will preface and say, I mean, I've been working here long enough. Like I actually try to think about it. I don't think I have any personal parts left anymore. I might have parts, but they're not actively in use. So, I mean, one of the things I do appreciate about having this job is that, we're able to handle hardware all the time. So I actually do like to build machines and kind of use them, just to see how they are, I don't know. It gives me a sense of like, oh, okay, like sure, there's the benchmarking and the testing and stuff, but actual real world use, I like to be able to have that as well. So yeah, all these are work machines. So I've got my desktop machine, which is like my editing rig. That is a 14900. No, is it a 13900? No, it's a 13900K with a 4090. I'm actually going to downgrade that one because I feel like I don't need that much power. I'm trying to do less editing and we don't really stream from home that often. So like I think I can get away with something smaller on my desk there. My gaming rig, which is hooked up to my TV, small form factor, got a 7800 X3D with I had a 7900 XTX, but I've been using lately a 49 or a 4080 in that. I want to go back to that 7900 XTX. There's that. Now I think about it, I have 2 testing benches now that I'm doing a lot more testing.
You have a CPU and video card test bench?
Yeah, I have 2 test benches. Both of them are identical, or I try to keep them identical. As of right now, one of them's A&D, one of them's Intel. So I'm doing CPU testing and GPU testing on that. I've been testing the 8700G. So on the AMD system. So that those specs are kind of moving in and out. So I have 3 desktops, 1 small form factor, or I guess the small form factor is a desktop, whatever. And then I've got a lot of handhelds. So I try not to keep too much gear at home because especially, I mean, it is work stuff. So like I try not to crud up our apartment and try to just bring stuff in. So yeah, every time I drive with Willis in the morning because we carpool in together, I'm usually like, all right, well, I got a bunch of boxes that I have at home that I need to come into the office. So
it's a trunk load.
yeah. So I try to keep it minimal, and handhelds right now, I think I only have 3.
It's funny though, because
Windows based.
When we were doing tested
Or I
stuff,
guess in Linux.
when I was doing tested stuff, I had to drive. I couldn't take BART because if I was taking
Right?
BART, I'd be carrying $3,000 worth of computer every
Right?
day.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
So, I mean, we're able to take the bus every once in a while, but yeah, for the most part, like I try to keep less stuff at home because yeah, it can pile up. Like that's the thing you don't realize is that when you're constantly getting stuff, sent to you, like it's hard. Storage is a problem.
Yeah, it's
so
this
Yes.
is. I'm sure people at home are like,
I know.
I'm
I'm sorry.
They can't find a place to put all the new
and
computer
organization.
hardware.
So yeah, a lot of people don't notice, but like I've been trying to reorganize our storage
It's
here.
it's-
Yeah. So
yeah, it's unbelievable.
yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Anyway,
But in fairness,
Yeah.
part of it has to do with the fact that real estate is so expensive in the Bay Area. Like I have friends who live in, I don't know, not even rural Pennsylvania or whatnot, but they're just like, yeah, I have 2,500 square feet just for me. I have a guest
Yeah,
room and
I
an
wish.
office and an
God.
office for my office. I'm still trying to figure out how to cram more onto a single 6 foot, wire rack.
Yeah, it's like your IKEA the square shelves are the most important thing in my house because you can pack all board games, computer stuff, all sorts of stuff on those things.
Yeah. All right, my turn.
oh yeah,
I don't-
you've done the
I don't have
calculations.
nearly as impressive a list as Will, but I'll start with the work related stuff. So I have currently four different Intel NUCs in play right
Ooh.
now. I use them because they're low power, they're basically like laptops without monitors. So a couple different generations, like one's pretty old, one's in Broadwell, one's like Bean Canyon, which is like 8th gen. I have only one or two 12th gen ones that I'm using, and these I kind of rotate through like software testing because on the PC World side I'm doing a lot more software coverage right now. And then related to a feature that I was supposed to publish 6 months ago, I was doing some just kind of informal how much gaming power do I need relative to how much I want to pay electricity costs kind of thing. So I've been also doing some gaming on a Phantom Canyon NUC, which is I want to say 9th gen, 10th gen CPU, but paired with an RX 2060 mobile chip. So it does pretty well. It's basically having a gaming laptop without a monitor attached. And it's pretty good for Overwatch. My comparative system, now we're starting to get into the stuff I built and I use, is a 5600G system. Literally that's it. There's no discrete graphics. And I wanted to see what's the power consumption on it and how good is it? I prefer the 2060 mobile system because it's a little bit prettier. If I want to do replays of dumb stuff I've done in game, it doesn't look as bad. And then I have a 5900X system paired with, I think I tried to cram a 6800 XT in there. I haven't confirmed it's properly working because I don't use that system as often. I was going to make it into a rendering thing. I'm going to retool my systems. And then I have the 2700X paired with a 1080 Ti. That was my main system for most of the pandemic that I don't use as much these days.
Hall of Fame card right there. Hold on to it.
I know. It's definitely going to be that meme where it's the Grim Reaper comes and it's am I done now? Am I going to heaven? He's like, no, I'm just putting you in a different rig. Is exactly what's going to happen with it.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I'm missing one or two systems, but I definitely have my Devil's Canyon, my 4790K system. That one is my Blu-ray DVD archive system, let's call it.
Oh, okay.
So that I could put it on my NAS for Plex streaming. And I think I've got a 1070 in there for funsies. And then I don't know if I'll ever, it's please just let me retire. I'm done. But I have my 2500K system still. And I think that one's paired with a GT 480. I was not going for anything super high powered back then.
There's a real interesting question because I retired a Broadwell. When I bought that NAS, the Synology, I literally replaced a Broadwell E machine that had like FreeBSD running on it. And at the time, FreeBSD's power management was real bad. So it was basically just running this Broadwell E, this high power, terrible efficiency Broadwell E chip at full speed all the time. And like my power bill went down $20 when I turned that thing off. Like part of it was at the time I was on, it was running 24/7. And I was on the PG&E has screwy plans where like if you use more power than other people with the same house in your neighborhood, then they charge you like increasingly higher rates the more electricity you use.
I've been doing so much testing that I'm hitting that for my apartment.
Well, yeah, and like I live in a neighborhood with a bunch of old people and no kids, so they all have tiny little TVs and like they don't have an unusual number of computers, and anyway, you buy an electric car is my advice for that. Then you get on a different rate plan that's much better.
Nice.
But yeah, so like there's math on it might be cheaper to upgrade your computer than to keep running like old Broadwell E machines, Elena, that we need to talk about.
That would make a great article.
Yeah.
Like I finally retired this because
Yeah.
Well, and
somebody in chat just said, does anyone have a Raspberry Pi? And that's actually true. We could count those because those are computers.
Add me like
I have 3.
I have 1.
I have
I guess I have 2
because I have 4, and then I also have a Mister, which is kind of like a Raspberry Pi, but not exactly.
Yeah. Oh.
I didn't think about those.
Yeah.
That Mister can be any computer.
They can
up
be
to
whatever
like
you
a
want.
486.
Yeah, there you go. FPGA. All right, Willis, the one with probably the most normal amount of computers at home.
Yeah, I mean, just the 2. Just the 2. It's fine.
Well, no, you got a Raspberry Pi as well.
Oh,
so.
yeah, 3.
Do you have a laptop?
There you go. I do.
We're not counting laptops,
We're not counting
remember? 'Cause
laptops.
that-
So,
all right.
yeah. So, I mean,
do have a
That would
handheld.
probably put Will way over.
I don't.
Yeah.
I only have. There's only I think 2 laptops in my house right now. My wife's MacBook and my daughter's school laptop.
I think I have
wow.
2, maybe 3.
Hey.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
no,
have 5, I think.
Wow. Yeah, so just the normal 2, one for work, one for entertainment. So for the work one, I was trying to think of it this morning. I believe I have the Be Quiet Silent Bass case that's sporting a 12900K and a 3080 EVGA, which I love.
Collector's item.
Yeah, collector's item now because I love the RGB. I have it's all full RGB because
Heck yeah.
RGB makes me edit faster.
Yeah, there you go. It does.
Yeah.
Zoom, zoom.
Benchmarks. Yeah.
And then for the entertainment that I have in the living room, I'm sporting a Fractal Terra with the nice jade color one, and it has the I believe this is the ROG Strix Z690i, the mini ITX, with the MSI Ventus 4080, and then a 13700 on 9K. Yeah, just to have a little bit of entertainment in the living room, which looks really nice with all the plants that next to it.
Yeah. A lot of computers. We've got a lot of them.
Too many computers, guys.
Yeah.
No such thing. I love this comment in YouTube chat where Patrick Sullivan says, this segment makes me feel normal. Smiley face.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it happens, right? I mean, once again, like my wife will come in the office and she'll be like, do you need all these computers? I'm like, yeah, I do. And then she's like, do you need all those handhelds? That where I'm like, I don't.
How many hands do you have, Adam? How many can you use at a time?
Wait, are you AI?
I could, I could have the extra.
You have extra
nasty
fingers.
It's one for playing, one for sniffing.
Yeah. I gotta have my sniffing. Yeah.
Oh no! I will say when my daughter was we were at a school thing and there were a bunch of kids there and like some of the older kids were making fun of her for wearing. One of the older boys were like, hey, you have a Fortnite shirt on. I don't think you play games. And she was like, the heck I do. They're like, what do you play on? PS4? And she was like, no, I have a gaming PC. And they were like, what? And anyway, it was a good dad moment. I was like, yeah.
I hope she challenged them to a match and then wipe the floor with them.
She is surprisingly competitive. Like she gets real sweaty in a way that I don't at the Fortnite. She'll come in and when she Gangnams on somebody when she gets a kill. Dang. And she's like, somebody's watching me, I'm gonna dance and make them watch a bad dance.
I'm like, that's hilarious. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Wow, I like it. A couple more questions. We'll get out of here. We do have a 17 Danish krone from friend of the show Eek44. Glad to see you. in the live chat. It says nice, a twin, or pleasant. I don't remember what the reference is into, but thank you. We have a question. Oh, no, I'm going to save this one. The other question is from a friend of the show, Davina. Will SSD capacities increase on average in 2024? This is a good question because I know there's been some reports about prices going, kind of creeping back up. What about capacity? Or, I feel like 4 terabyte, like you can get some 4 terabyte ones. I think 8 terabytes like the biggest one you can get, but the prices are still crazy.
But you can get real big if you're willing to go one of those long boys in your computer.
Yeah. But I feel like, still 512, 1 and 2 terabyte are like the the mainstays. Do we think capacities are gonna keep going?
I feel like capacities are slowly increasing, but I feel like because of the pricing, we're not seeing it accelerate as rapidly as before. Just because probably has something to do with demand, right? Like if you are releasing an 8 terabyte drive for what is it? I forget what it's going for these days. $400.
I don't know.
Maybe $350, and not like a ton of people are buying it. I don't see why. If Gordon were here, I'm sure he would say the march of progress always moves on. But I feel like we've kind of gotten into a bit of a rut where I wouldn't equate it exactly to the era of nothing but 4-core chips from Intel, but I think it's a little like that because there's nothing external kind of pushing on that.
Yeah, I have in my editing rig, I think I have 3 2 terabytes.
Yeah, I have 4 2 terabytes in my machine right
so
now.
But also the way I like to configure, I actually like to segment stuff on different drives, so I don't think I need any of them to be more than that.
So 8 terabyte NVMe drives are $1,200. It looks like. Street.
Whoa.
8 terabyte SATA drives are a little more reasonable at $530-ish starting for good ones. But it seems like 2 terabytes is kind of the sweet spot right now, right? 2 terabyte drives are much more reasonable, and a 4 terabyte Samsung, I'm looking at a 990 Pro here on Amazon, is $320, which seems about right. We saw some 2 terabyte prices under $200, all the way down to $100 for some kind of maybe not the fastest ones.
Yeah.
Around the holidays, so it feels like
it was getting good. Now it's going back up, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think Elena, I think you're right. This is price and demand, and when the price for the NAND goes down, we'll see them jam more NAND onto the SSDs because they need to move. They need to get rid of it so they can get the supply back down, so the demand goes back up. Yeah.
Well, you know more developers than I do. Development needs a lot of space too. What do developers need? More than 2 terabytes, you think?
Well,
for,
it
projects
depends on the game, right? If you're building a pixel art game, then 300 megs is probably fine. But if you're the Anacrusis is the thing I know the most about. We spent, it's a kind of AA indie game, right? And it was 300, 400 gigs with all the source assets. Because the thing that people don't realize is your source assets are a lot bigger often than the assets you ship in the game. So
of course,
baked
down to a 16 gig game. Now the challenge is if you have to have multiple versions of that project on your drive, which often you do, often you'll have a staging branch and a dev branch, and the dev branch is where you're doing your day-to-day work, and then the staging branch is where the engineer who has to get everything ready to go for the main build. So 2 terabytes is a kind of baseline, I think, for especially for artists who are going to keep a lot of the source material.
Yeah,
on their
I
drives.
think I have a 2 terabyte in my gaming rig, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever. I feel, I could download of the games that I'm either actively playing or that I'm oh yeah, I'll get to that some point. So I'd say a couple dozen games I have downloaded on there. I'm never stressing out that 2 terabyte. And handhelds, a couple of my handhelds have 1 terabyte, and so I don't know.
Yeah,
512, I still think can be doable in a lot of situations.
I think
if you have multi drives and stuff.
I think my launch Steam Deck, I bought the 512 gig version, and it immediately felt small as soon as I installed a couple of big AAA games on it.
Yeah.
And
it depends on the game for sure.
The OLED has a terabyte and it feels spacious.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like like if I was building a machine today and somebody was like, hey, what size SSD should I buy? And I'm looking, even with the higher prices right now, I think 2 terabytes is where I would, for a C drive, 2 terabytes is a good place to start, I think.
Or 1. I think it depends on what you do.
Yeah, if you're not playing games, who cares?
Yeah.
One is doable, especially if you are more on a budget. You can pair it with a spinning platter drive for pretty cheap, and so you can kind of do the whole like swaparoo,
Or
kind of thing.
Or even get a SATA SSD and plug that in instead of a spinning platter. Like you can get those multi-level NAND SSDs. Their performance isn't the best, but it's way better than a spinning platter drive, especially for reads. So
it is, but also you can't beat the size capacity.
That's true.
Yeah.
For a spinning platter. So it just really depends size of case, use case, all that kind of thing.
Speaking of pricing, friend of the show, Geneva1G1 gave us a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Said, well, dang, SSDs are getting expensive. I picked up a pair of 8 terabyte Samsung 870s for $370 in September.
Smoking deal.
Last year was so good. Last year was so good.
That is a good one. Yeah. So we got another super chat from a friend of the show, Evo Cotty Productions. Haven't seen you live in a while. Thank you. Glad to have you here. $10 is always appreciated. I love it. Said, I love you guys and I'm happy to catch you live. Glad to have you here. My question is, have any of you experimented with a local large language model yet? If you have, what are your impressions? Elena, first I'll ask you.
Nope, not yet. I am disappointing.
Yeah. Willis, have you? No, I haven't. I've been in talks, and Gordon and I have talked about it too for like testing and stuff like that, but I haven't actually set anything up. Will, I feel like you're probably the only one who might have messed around with a local.
I've done Stable
LLM.
Diffusion stuff locally. I haven't done any LLM stuff.
Oh, okay.
Stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
sorry. I kind of don't like them, Adam.
Well, but what if you could train it to be a CEO like Gordon?
I mean, that sounds like the one. Maybe Gordon found the one exception to the hey, maybe LLMs are bad rule.
I'm curious. It's a curious thing, but yeah, like I guess the better question is local versus cloud.
I think they're both pretty bad, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Adam, you missed the last comment from
well, I was going to bring it up. Yeah. Long live Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
There you go.
Yes. Will,
I'm a fan.
Wait, have we asked them this question?
Are you a fan of Star Trek, the number one, the first movie?
So I will tell you, I saw number 1 at a very formative age. I saw it, and
Hell
Gordon and I have
yeah.
very similar feelings, if I recall, on Star Trek. No, he doesn't like the motion picture.
He hates
yeah.
No, he thinks it's boring.
I can feel it. I'm not.
Pretend fell asleep during the movie.
He's calling Adam again right now.
Yeah. He's like, Gordon's calling. He's like, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
It's slow, but it's deliberate in a way that a lot of pre-Star Wars science fiction is. It's like
I love it.
It's like kind of a shitty version of 2001, but with Star Trek characters, which I can respect.
Take that back.
What? 2001's a really good movie. Star Trek: The Motion Picture is fine.
For what it is, yeah, it's awesome. Also, Gordon hates Alien.
Well, like that's just the worst. Like that's almost as bad as the motion smoothing take from Jeff. Like, who can hate Alien?
Okay, for a minute there, I thought you were going to say that. Yeah,
sweet.
That was a word. Yeah, no, yeah.
Literal,
so
like. Look,
his thing's like what you like watching 20 minutes of wet drippy hallways, and I'm like, yes, it's intense. It's a damn good movie.
Everything else Ridley Scott has done with the Alien franchise has been everything. Each step further down that path has gotten worse and worse. But
wait, so you're Alien over Aliens?
No, Ridley Scott didn't do Aliens.
I know, but
James Cameron did Aliens.
Yeah.
Aliens is great. Love Aliens. I'm saying,
but which one would you take?
They're two completely different movies.
I know, but if
you're not gonna, no, I'm not. This is a trap. I'm not going to fall into this hole.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that Prometheus and that the next one stunk.
Yeah.
Terrible movies.
Yeah. Not great.
I mean, I'll put Khan above the motion picture.
Oh yeah.
It's like Khan. My hot take on Star Trek is that the Voyage Home sucks.
Yeah, I showed it to Lindsay.
The Whales movie?
Yeah. I showed it to Lindsay for the first time because it has San Francisco in it. And
it's not good.
Yeah, and I was like, this is not as good as I remember.
Nuclear vessels.
It's been a while. Alameda. Yeah, and I was like, we used to live in Alameda.
Shout out to Alameda.
Yeah. So I don't know. It wasn't as good as I remember, but yeah, it's still good. I like it. I still think 2. Yeah,
When I mean, the high point of
I
that movie is
know.
when Spock nerve pinches the guy with the boombox on the bus.
that
We've all
was
wanted to
pretty
do
funny.
that.
Yeah. Do that one, Bart. Anyway,
For me.
you know, yeah, we need to make a side podcast of Star Trek. It sounds like you're totally in.
Yeah.
I watched Search
Yeah.
for Spock the other day because
Oh.
I hadn't seen it since I was like 10 years old.
Yeah, I haven't
It's still
seen it in a
bad.
while. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what's your take on Babylon 5?
I thought Babylon 5 was boring and tedious and would rather have watched paint dry.
Wow.
Eject him out of the show.
Okay,
That's it.
yeah,
done.
we're gonna wrap it
done,
up
Will.
here. Dang,
I think
Elena
Lower
is
Decks rips, though.
pissed.
I'm going to go ahead and get that out.
Okay.
And Strange New Worlds is the best Star Trek that's been on TV since The Next Generation.
Okay. Yeah.
We have a couple of super chats left, by the way.
A couple super chats left from, let's see. No, I think I read them all. Oh, no. We got one more. Yeah, one more. I'm going to get to it. We got one more serious question.
Saving it?
I think
Okay.
I'm going to get to. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess it's kind of serious. A friend of the show, Ivan R. asks, why hasn't NVIDIA changed the name of their GPUs to AI Force AIX? So instead of GeForce GTX, AI Force AIX. So they're AI GPUs,
I mean, they're making a lot of money on AI right now.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll ever rebrand? Because, you know, there's...
Well, what don't they have? They have the AI cards, the ones with no ports on the back. that
Yeah,
they
but
sell
I don't
to
think they're called AI
workstations.
Force AIX.
No, I mean, look, clearly, look, there's a lot of things I like about what NVIDIA does. Their branding is always a little all over the place, and they'll like start a new name scheme, and then the next cards immediately throw that out and jack it up in some important way. Like I still think that they should have called those 3070 Ti Supers 3080 like minuses or something. They should have yeah. Anyway, I don't
remember the name of those GPUs. Yeah.
I'm trying to look it up, but I can't talk and do that at the same time.
Willis just put a poll up. This is a very important poll. Everyone take the poll. Your preferred alien movie.
there's more to.
There's
like,
more, but
yeah.
this is the first 4.
The deep learning GPUs is what they call those. Tesla H100
Tesla
80
H100.
gig.
That's what. Yeah.
Deep learning GPU graphics compute card.
Yeah.
Only $44,000 on Amazon. I can
Yeah.
get that
Buy it now.
February 27th to 29th. I can't
What?
wait that long.
You can't get 2-hour shipping.
If I spend $44,000, I want it tomorrow.
That's stupid. Yeah. Anyway,
I do like the Apple Vision Pro, Willis.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I don't. It's fine. It's neat.
Okay. Last question here from friend of the show, Coffee. Gave us a $5 Canadian super chat. Thank you so much. Get those Canadian bucks. Hey, Elena, I heard you found a rare flying spider card over the weekend. Can you tell us more about it? What the hell is a
What
rare
is that?
flying spider card? I like spiders.
So I was away for this weekend, and I was
Is this a
pretty
Pokemon card?
busy schedule wise, and I'm checking my phone for notifications, and Discord has this feature now where, like Amazon and other places incorporating AI, they will try to summarize, at least in this case for Discord, they'll summarize discussions that are happening on the server or a server. And I get this push notification that says, I think it was, and it named like Kaz MC, and I think maybe Ziv and a few other of the Discord regulars. And they say that they're talking now about flying rare spider card. And I was like, what is this? At first I thought they were talking about like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or like some kind of like
making fun of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Collectible trading card game. And I get in there and like into the chat, and it's like, I don't even know what it was. It wasn't even like really related to spiders or trading card games or anything.
AI
And
messed
I'm
up.
just like, what is this? So I have a screenshot and I just like put it in the chat, and I go back to what I'm doing for the weekend, and everybody's like, what? And Kaz was like, I wasn't even in this conversation.
That is the worst feature. It's I haven't turned anything off so fast in a long time. Sorry, Discord.
That is weird. All right. Well, it sounds like a collectible. And you got to catch them all. Gotta catch 'em
I don't want any
all.
fighting spiders, Adam.
I like
No.
spiders.
No,
I like
thank you.
spiders. They're fun.
And you have a pet, but
we just got a new one. We have 4 now. So
You 4
Yeah,
spiders?
Yeah,
4
we do.
spiders
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
What kind of spiders do you
Jumping
have?
spiders. Yeah, so they're cute, very cute. I'll show you photos.
Good. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
During lunch.
What have you ever watched? I know your kid has probably watched the Lucas the jumping spider.
We don't watch spider videos.
No,
in our
Lucas,
house, sir.
Lucas, the animated.
I
doesn't
you
watch
give him a name and it doesn't help.
No, the ones with the big cute eyes.
We watch Bluey. It's a family of dogs.
Yeah.
They're friendly and you learn
I
lessons
know you
about
know what
parenting.
Lucas is. Yeah, Lucas is cute.
Bluey's for parents, not kids.
Yeah,
That's the secret.
yeah.
I do like Lucas
Anyway.
the animation,
Yeah,
but yeah.
see, Lucas, that's a
thank
jumping
you.
spider. It's so
Don't
cute.
don't humanize. Don't anthropomorphize spiders. All you're doing is like your pro spider propaganda is not going to fly in my house, sir.
Jumping spiders are very cute. They help me get over my spider phobia. So
Well, that's.
yeah.
I'm glad that worked for you. I'm
man.
not interested in getting. I'm afraid of them for good reason, sir.
No, they're very cute. Anyway, that's it for this podcast. Check back next week for your fix of PC talk on the Full Nerd. Don't forget to go over to the Gleam.io and put in your entries to win this awesome AMD CPU and GPU. You know what? I don't think I ever
You just
smelled a
sniffed it.
Falcon Northwest.
These thumb screws feel so good. On
I
the
know,
back.
they actually-
I've been
yeah, it's
quietly
like a good fidget
fidgeting with
item.
them all after.
Yeah.
Ivan did ask in the chat earlier, does it smell like the Falcon Northwest coffee?
Oh, that would actually be cool. But no. Yeah.
There's a little bit of a.
I'm
there's
gonna
a slight odor.
I'll tell you, I don't think you were on here, but I have a business idea. Gordon has a business idea. I have a better business
boy,
idea.
here we go.
Scented thermal paste, so that when the thermal
Wait,
paste heats up,
That happened.
I know
What, really?
there is like a Japanese company that has like some fruit and stuff like that, but I don't want fruit. I want like coffee. Imagine if this had like scented thermal paste with like coffee beans, and you
This is
just like.
But there's a
Yeah.
monkey's paw someplace on this
Yeah.
one because this is a bad idea.
I'm gonna go over to Taiwan early for Computex and have some vendor meetings and hopefully partner up with somebody to make this scented thermal paste. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I'll put it in the Steam Deck. Everyone's sniffing their Steam Decks. Imagine if you could have your own
Aren't
scented.
they really sniffing their Steam Decks?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You don't know that? It's a thing. I do it all the time.
I just thought that, like,
Do you
sometimes
never sniff your Steam Deck?
No, man.
Why?
I'm a grown ass man.
Oh, it's fun. I love the smell of
Wow.
electronics.
Will
I don't
is
need to
just
huff
going
my
for the
deck.
throat today. Call somebody a boomer.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
Look,
Okay.
you can huff your own deck. Don't sniff mine. It's back there.
All right, we're gonna get out of here. Let me go back to the notes. To listen to us on the go, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, anywhere you can point your RSS feed to. Please do that, and while you're there, leave us a review. Every time you do, it warms my heart.
Adam smiles. He
'Cause,
sends
yeah.
notes. He's like, "Hey, they left a really nice review." For
Yeah,
us."
no, like reading all those reviews this morning, I had no idea so many reviews came in. It literally it brought a tear to my eye. I was just like, dang, like it felt really good.
Really
so thank
nice.
you, everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's really nice because a lot of times, like, you look at the YouTube comments and it's just the opposite of positive reviews.
Yeah, no, we got
Our-
a good
your YouTube
community.
community's
I
great,
feel like our
actually,
community's pretty good. But yeah. So anyway, I want to thank everyone for being on the show here. Elena, thank you for stopping by. Go eat a bowl of cereal. If you're hungry.
Hopefully non-toxic.
Yeah, it's fine. It'll work out.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it could be better or worse than sniffing Steam Decks. Will, thank you for joining us.
Always.
So glad to
Always
have you
glad
here.
to be here.
Yeah, and then Willis is going to take us out of here.
All right. So the poll is still going at 70 votes. Alien is in the lead.
Oh, yeah.
Aliens, second. And then I guess no one cares about Alien 3 or Alien versus Predator. There's so much more, but those are the top. So, but Alien is in the lead at 46%. So just FYI.
Boom.
Gonna need to bring this poll back up when Gordon comes back. We get his other hot take again. So yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time. Bye.
Edible thermal paste.
Ew.
Next level.
Oof.
Little